Welcome to the Adventures in Alchemy podcast, where we share tips, techniques, and true stories to support you in using the law of attraction and alchemy to create magic and live the life of your dreams. Here's your host, the founder of dailyalchemy.com, Michelle Martin Dobbins.
Hey there, it's Michelle Martin Dobbins from dailyalchemy.com. And I'm hoping that my sound is going to be okay here today. I really wanted to go ahead and record this because it's in my mind, just something that popped up. But my MacBook is on dangerous, fixing to shut down on me levels. So I'm kind of having to be plugged into an outlet. And here's a little secret. I usually record these in my closet. Yes, the sound quality in there is the best that I can get in my house because it's insulated from all the clothes. And it's honestly one of the few places that nobody comes and bothers me. Usually I hear them in the distance going, "Mom, Mom," and I just don't answer, so they never know where I am. Sometimes I do answer, but I honestly, my closet is my recording space, my meditation space, and if it was a little bit bigger, it might even be my writing space. I have considered trying to put a little chair and table in here, but it is a walk-in closet, but it's not that huge. Okay, I've totally digressed, but today's topic is living the 5-star life. And this just popped into my head. I work at another business. Well, I am a co-owner of another business with my husband, and we run a heating and air conditioning company. And some of you guys have probably heard of Yelp. Yelp is a search engine for businesses. Primarily, it's aimed at restaurants, but people just kind of go on there, review and rate and such. And I personally use Yelp for restaurants, and my qualification is I'm going to look for one with a lot of stars. And so I met with a Yelp representative who was trying to get our business to advertise on Yelp. And it's a heating and cooling business, and I really actually didn't even know that people would search that until recently, just from some business training that I had attended on a heating and air conditioning conference. But not to digress too much, most of you are familiar with, it happens on Yelp, it happens on Google, it happens on Facebook, lots of other places, Amazon. You get to rate things. It is usually like 5 stars, TripAdvisor too. And I use these when I'm going on trips, and I use Yelp when I'm looking for restaurants. And I kind of have a rule, like, if it's not at least 4 stars, I'm probably not going to use it. And so I started thinking about, in our lives, do we go for 5 stars? Do we go for, 3 or 4 stars? Because I've also been working with a life coach, and every week when I work with her, she has this form where you check in, and she actually has you rate areas of your life on that same scale. And I realized I think I have a pretty cool life. I get to do a lot of things that I want to do. I get to make these podcasts and talk about whatever I want to. I get to travel a good bit. I live in a home that I really love. There are so many things about my life that I really, really love. But when I go on there and I'm rating things and I'm going through my finances, my relationships, my this, my that, when I'm sitting there completely being honest with myself, I get a lot of 3s and 4s. There are some areas where I'm yeah, I'm a 5. This is my best ever experience, right? And I get these 3s and 4s, and I'm going, well, that's pretty good, right? 3s and 4s are pretty good, because I know there are a lot of people who got 1s and 2s in this area. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what? So I'm choosing to be okay with 3s and 4s because other people have 1s and 2s? What is, I used to be ones and twos in a lot of areas. And, some days I'm still ones and twos in some areas. And some months. But this alchemical, the alchemist in me always wants to transform, always wants to grow. And so, I wasn't content with the ones and twos. So I'm like, why am I thinking that it's okay for threes and fours? And don't get me wrong, like where you are right now is totally okay. It's totally okay. And being okay with it is like the way to move up, the way to add more stars. Because if you're a restaurant and you're, or you're a business and you're not okay with the service you're providing, then, you have to kind of get into alignment with where you are right now and where you want to go. And that sounds really vague, so I'm going to go deeper with that. But, when you're resisting where you are, then it gets you stuck. So by saying it's okay to be 1 and 2 star, I'm not saying like just accept that that's all you get. No, I'm just saying okay, this is information right now. Like I'm feeling 1 star-ish about my relationships. And maybe just feel it. Feel those feelings. Okay. Take stock. This is not really what I want going forward, but this is where I am now. So what can I do to shift it? And, there are a lot of things, so many things, all the things that I teach classes on, and lots of things on my blog, Daily Alchemy, that can help you shift certain parts of your life, because there are tons of ways to shift energy and to transform energy and really to make changes in your life. It's like a 2-step process, right? You shift the energetic part first, and then you take the physical action. And a lot of times, not always, I'm not going to say it's always that easy. A lot of times if you shift energetically, then you'll just automatically take the action. And I think sometimes people get confused and they'll listen to things like The Secret and stuff. And it's kind of like, once you believe it, it will happen. And I think sometimes we don't realize that usually when we've made that energetic shift, then taking the action is pretty easy. I mean, you're still going to take the action, but it feels really good to do. It's like, for instance, here I am recording podcasts today. The reason my Mac is about dead is this is the 4th podcast. And I haven't recorded a podcast for months. If you're a regular listener, I apologize. I got stuck up in some energy, some resisting of where I was, because on this personal growth path, some days you're 4 star and then something happens and you're 1 star. And, it basically means you got out of alignment, and sometimes there are things you can control and things that you can't control. So you just kind of start with where you are. You don't beat yourself up for being in a 1 star place. But what happened for me, I've been telling myself, I need to be recording these podcasts. And it was all these excuses and things came up. I can't get quiet time. Some of my kids homeschool. Now it's summer. The dogs will not stop barking. Oh my gosh. A quiet place requires me to go to my office at night when no one's there, which is kind of creepy. And, at night I like to be with my family, but, oh, no. I could go on and on for why it didn't happen. But once I did the work, and actually a lot of the work was it was energetic work, okay? It wasn't figuring out how I was going to get people to shut up and be quiet and leave me alone. Now, for a long time, I thought that that's what I needed. I needed to figure out how I was going to fit it into my schedule and how I was going to get people to be quiet. But actually, I just did a lot of personal growth work, because I came up on these walls of like, what do I really want to do? Where do I really want to be? And I had to make decisions. And if you didn't listen to the last podcast, one of those decisions was making a vow really to myself and to the universe. And like that culminated at the point of like 6 months of like serious inner work where it felt like nothing was happening. But I was just like, okay, I have to do this because I'm not living 5 stars. I'm like down to 2 stars in this area. And, you know, sometimes when you're at 2 stars, you have to say, oh, I'm at 2 stars. What is it going to take to shift me to a different place? Where do I want to be? And how do I start getting into alignment with being there? And for me, like sometimes it used to be really easy on a lot of areas. And for you, it might be really easy in a lot of areas, which is just like, just doing your meditation, just doing, you know, visualizations and affirmations. And, you know, those are great things and they can be very powerful. I found for myself in a few certain areas, I got to a point where those weren't enough because I had a lot of beliefs that I had to get unstuck, that I had to shift. And it took some shadow work and some, you know, deeper kinds of work to kind of free up that energy so that I could do the visualizations and the affirmations and tap into that. But I've totally digressed now. But you know, you kind of do what you need to get your stars going where they need, you know, up where they need to be. But another thing that I think many of us suffer from is that there are a lot of people who are in 1 and 2 star lives. And we feel guilty. Like, why should I get this 5-star experience when other people are suffering? And I found for myself, the higher I get in my life, the more aligned I get to what I want, to what I consider a 5-star experience. And when I say a 5-star experience, I'm not talking about, you know, necessarily eating at this, like, it's comparable to like eating at fancy restaurants and going to the high-class hotels. I'm talking about being aligned with your life. I'm talking about getting up in the morning and feeling excited and passionate because you know that that day you're going to do something that brings you joy and brings other people joy. And, you know, it just feels right. It feels in alignment. You know that you're on the path for you. And, you know, there are definitely different areas of life where you can feel like, in my relationships, I'm great. In my career, things aren't so good. So, you know, that's kind of why you're doing their ratings in different areas of your life. But when you get yourself in that 5-star place for you, then you make it easier for everybody else to have a 5-star life. And yeah, I know, like, there are people who have, and I'm totally one of them, who have certain privileges in life because of race or religion or where they live or how their finances are. I get that, but I still believe that every person who gets to their own version of a 5-star life makes it easier for everybody else because of a couple of reasons. A, you're giving good juju to the collective consciousness, okay? Because there are things in the collective consciousness of our planet that I would love to see shifted. And getting mad about it won't shift it. But shifting it for myself, then that's what I'm adding. And so the more people who add that higher level of consciousness to the collective consciousness, it makes it easier for everybody else. And it's kind of like that story of the guy who first ran, I believe it was the 3-minute mile. And like before that, I was like, it can't be done. And once he did it, like everybody's doing it. So, you know, don't feel guilty for creating a life that you love, because the more people who create a life that they love, the more people will create a life that they love. It's just the way it is. And from that point of having a life that you love, you can reach out and you can help other people. Because, if you're like, oh, there are a lot of 1 and 2 star people, in finances, there are a lot of really poor people who are suffering. I don't need to have 5. I'll just take this 3 because that's pretty good and I'm not going to complain. But guess what? How can you really help the 1 star people from a 3 star place? A 3 star place might mean you feel secure, you can pay your bills, and that's it. You may not have enough to share. I mean, we always have enough to share. You can share from the place that you are, but you don't feel like you have that much. But if you got to that 5 star place, I have found that, when a lot of people start doing law of attraction work, they start trying to make their lives better. But here's the cool thing. That's like totally fine with me that people try to do selfish things, right? And, I don't actually think it's selfish to take care of yourself. Or if it is, I'll go with Abraham Hicks and say that you should be selfish. But once you get to that point where you're like 5 stars all around, even if you didn't have that star to begin with, I think most people, and definitely there are exceptions to this rule, but most people start looking around to see, how can I serve people more? I mean, I think it's great to serve people all the way along. And that's always been a calling of mine to help and to serve and to heal. But, the more people have a good life, the more then they start looking around trying to be more of service to others. So don't feel guilty and look on yourself as a bad person for trying to have a 5 star life. And, don't beat yourself up if you're at 1 and 2 stars in some parts of your life, or if you're in 1 or 2 stars at all of your life. Just take some time, because I honestly, until my life coach started using this form that had ratings for all these parts of my life, it was now every week I'm sitting here rating every part of my life. And I'm like, I'm happy, but I'm not 5 stars in all areas. And I'm totally okay with that. And I'm also totally focusing on what would make it 5 stars for me. Why when I sit down to rate it, do I say this area is a 3 stars or 4 stars? And, there are some areas of my life that right now I'm like, you know what? This is 3 stars. And I'm okay with that, because right now I'm focusing more on this area. It's totally okay. And as the Yelp person has told me, people don't always care about your star rating. You can still get customers. You can still have friends. You can still have a love life. You can still have good family ties. But I am a person who always wants to grow. And so I don't know if I'll ever be fully at 5 stars in all areas of my life. And that doesn't bother me. What will bother me is not shooting for 5 stars. So I would invite you to maybe sit down, make a list of the areas in your life that matter to you, or even maybe that don't so much matter to you, but relationships, health, money, career, service, spirituality. I know there are more on her list, and I should have probably wrote it down. Eating good, sleeping good, health. Well, I said health. Exercise, movement is kind of part of health. But for me, if I don't do enough of that, I start feeling bad. So all the things all those areas, and then just give yourself a rating. Maybe you want to do it every week and just say, that's where I am. And where would I like to be? Am I holding myself back because I think that I'm at 4 stars and that's good enough because other people don't have as much? Or, am I afraid? Oh, there's a good one. Am I afraid to take that next step? Because that's where I was in a lot of areas in my life. I'm at a 4. 4 is pretty good because 5 requires a lot of work. A lot of, because if I want to be at a 5, then I have to shift this and this and this and that. And for me, like in some areas, I'm like, I'm going to have to do that work because it's actually gets to where it's like painful not to be striving to shift those things and do those things because it's always knocking on my door. My subconscious is saying, I thought you were going to do X, Y, and Z, going back to the vow. And the vow is something that also made me look at, if I am vowing to complete certain things in this lifetime, I better get busy. And, getting busy physically without getting busy energetically shifting them doesn't really work. So if you have something where you're wanting to make a shift, I would first start with just sitting and feeling all of your feelings about that and trying not to tell your story, because I've gotten busted by myself and by my coach the past several months about like telling myself a lot of excuses that were, bullcrap, total bullcrap. But I have believed them for many, many years. And then I was like, oh my goodness. But, be honest with yourself and decide, just decide like what star level do you want and how are you going to get there? And if you're not taking the action, there's something blocking it. So as I said, feel your feelings around that and ask yourself, this is a very simple one. Just ask yourself, what do I need to shift to get to 5 stars? And then just write out whatever comes into mind. And then maybe just let it go. Or maybe ask your higher self to help you shift it, or whoever. If you work with God, if you work with angels, if you work with, the universe, whatever you call on, whatever higher power, ask them to help you shift it. And, then you can look around. I know Daily Alchemy has a lot of things about shifting beliefs. You can also Google EFT tapping. It's a great way to shift and let go of beliefs. So many ways. So I'm going to let you have fun with that and decide like what star level you are at your life and what star level you would like to be. And let me know what you're going to do to get to 5 stars and like what area of your life you would most like to be at 5 stars at. You can reach me at dailyalchemy.com. There are the links there for all the little social media sites. You can message me or tweet me on Twitter and message me or post to my Facebook page and go out and create some magical 5-star experience today. Namaste and big hugs. Would you like some help creating more magic in your life? I've got a ton of freebies and goodies for you. They're all tucked away inside my magical freebie vault. You can get free access though. You just have to go to www.dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault. Again, that's dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault. And when you get there, you can just plug in your name and email and you will get instant access to all kinds of goodies. There are daily and weekly manifesting planners, the How to Shift Your Vibe in 5 Minutes e-kit that has audios and a workbook. There are moon manifesting planners and daily love lists and money trackers and all kinds of goodies right there. I didn't want to make you have to go to a bunch of different pages and sites and wait for certain freebies to come out. So I just took all of my freebies and put them in one place where you could just sign up one time and download any of them that you want at any time that you needed. So you can just head on over to dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault and download them today. Have a magical day.
Thanks for listening to the Adventures in Alchemy podcast. Connect with me on thedailyalchemy.com or Facebook at facebook.com/Michelle Dobbins, author. Join us next time for even more magical life tips.